Hi, my name is Michelle Hill. I'm the founder of Slingshot Designs, and today I want to talk to you about personalities. So most people are familiar with the DISC assessment. I teach an adaptation, a variation of the DISC assessment, which I've really brought in and made it my own. I started off when I was introduced a year and a half ago to an adaptation of the DISC that used birds in place of words. And instead of DISC, we learned it in terms of birds instead. And I've taken that to another level as well. And now when I teach it, I teach what I call D.O.P.E designs. And the D.O.P.E stands for dove, owl, peacock, and eagle. I'm a firm believer that we are all four of these quadrants of personalities exist within each of us. So a dove being a nurturing, loving, empathetic, peace-loving existence, right? And a peacock being a brilliant display of personality and color and communication. An eagle being high-level, strategic, and a predator, right? And a sheer force to be reckoned with. And then an owl being your facts, numbers, wisdom, education, analytical mindset. So we all have these four personas within us. So I got to thinking about this one day and I wrote them all out kind of like an org chart, right? I wrote them all level with each other. And what I was really thinking about, I got really sick of hearing that, focus on your top score, your top two scores. I disagree with that. I rejected that notion. If we are all four of these exist within us, then why aren't we developing all four quadrants of our personalities? And then that thought kind of led me to, well, what if there's a conflict, or what if there's a disagreement or gridlock? And as I was pondering this, I happened to look up into the backyard and see a cardinal sitting on the branch. And I wrote the cardinal in at the top of the org chart and the hierarchy. And I realized that is our decision maker. That is our game changer, right? That's the admiral who goes out and deploys troops for each specific battle or challenge in our lives. And that cardinal really being the top of the food chain in terms of personality, that's our connection to a higher power. So whatever that looks like for you, for many people, that looks like God, right? And God being within us. And so I shifted the way that I teach this. And I now teach in terms of D.O.P.E designs, cardinal being at the top, and the other four personalities being what the cardinal executes for the given, whatever our given circumstances. Right now, for example, I'm creating content that's going to be published. This is not something I could have done 2 years ago, right? I had never developed that peacock side of my personality. In fact, I rejected that I even had that within me. It took me a long time to develop that, and anybody who's followed me for a while has certainly seen those earlier trials and iterations. They weren't always graceful. They weren't always smooth, and they certainly still always are going, or I still have challenges. I'm still progressing, I'm still improving, but I'm no longer afraid of that process, right? And knowing that I am constantly sharpening the saw of my peacock, and how do I deploy that side of my personality for a specific situation. And I no longer fear those moments where I have to do that. I can execute now, right? And certainly, same thing I would say for my eagle. So one of my favorite things about D.O.P.E designs and thinking in terms of personality this way is that it opens the door for us to create a narrative of our lives using this model. Good luck doing that with the DISC. But it's much easier for me to tell my story to anybody using the bird analogy. And being able to talk about my experience, my personal experiences growing up in times of adversity and so on and so forth, in terms of telling a story using birds, it makes significantly more sense to me and to others. And it really takes away a lot of the labels and blame and shame that hinder people from being able to own their own stories, right? So here's how I tell mine. And I hope that I really believe that a lot of you will find this helpful. I tell mine like this. I was raised, I think I was born largely focused on the dove. And, you know, through a series of trials and tribulations throughout my life, I ended up with a very injured dove. And I relied heavily on my owl. And all I did was study, 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 study. Education was one thing nobody could take away from me, so on and so forth. And I focused so strongly on my owl. And I largely believed that I had no peacock to my personality, right? That I couldn't be that center of stage, or, you know, I couldn't be in the spotlight. It wasn't for me. And certainly the same goes for, I didn't believe that I was this force to be reckoned with, or that I was this sheer hunter or huntress, right? So it wasn't until many years later that I was able to pull all of that together and realize that I am each and every one of those four personality types reside within me. And certainly when I came to the realization of how the cardinal plays into our personalities and how we have a decision maker, and if we can rely and learn to rely, this is where faith comes into play. If you can learn to rely on the cardinal to be able to deploy the right troops, the right combination of personalities or personas for any given challenge, and you're constantly building and honing the skills of all four quadrants, then there is nothing that you can't stand up to the challenge of. There is no conversation that's too scary. You always have control over being able to shift and become dynamic in the moment and change the course of how that conversation or that experience is going to go. So if this is something that you find compelling, then please reach out to me. I would be happy to kind of walk you through some more of it, have a conversation about how this applies in your own life, and see what doesn't happen for you when you decide to kind of take on a new look to an old paradigm, right? When you start to rethink the way that we think as humans, and where that might fit into the community for you, where you can deploy that in your own life, and see if you don't see some major changes happen fairly quickly. So my name is Michelle Hilwa. I'm the founder of Slingshot Designs. I help people connect their roots and wings through education, collaboration, and innovation. Until next time, everybody, please take care of yourselves and your neighbors.